All right, welcome everybody to this quarter's Get Ahead review. We're excited to be here. I know we're actually streaming this into a couple different places. So let me go ahead and be sure. That welcome everybody to that echo, which happens every time. But again, for those that are watching via the broadcast, we're excited to have you here. Welcome. Probably some of you are catching this afterwards, and we have expecting a few close friends here inside the Zoom room as well. So we're excited about that. Welcome to you as well. The purpose of today, and really the outcome that we're going to focus on, is that businesses plan at the beginning of the year, right? But the most successful businesses actually make adjustments after every quarter. Last night was the national championship game for the men's basketball championship. And the day before that was the national championship for the women's basketball tournament. For those of you that are basketball fans, you probably watch that or watch those games, or one of them at least, and recognize that not always the team who was ahead at one point ended up winning the game. And you recognize that good coaches step into the huddle and they make adjustments. They don't just say, this was the game plan at the beginning of the game, and this is what it's going to be for the entire game, right? If they did that, they would lose. Right. But good coaches, they take a look at, okay, how did the first quarter go? And what adjustments do we need to make? And so when you think about your business in that way, you can't be a championship business without thinking in that way, without realizing that some things have changed, right? And I think one of the big changes that we're going to be talking about here is the fact that the NAR settlement that came out is having an impact upon the way that we should be looking at our businesses. And so, again, this is an adjustment. It's not they just ended the game over. No, it's the fact that this was an adjustment that needed to be made to the industry. And we are now making an adjustment in our businesses in order to reflect that. So anyway, I'm excited to be accompanied today by not only the co-host of the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, but my business partner, the co-creator of Think Bigger Real Estate Group, Stephanie. Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Hi, thanks. Excited to be here and loving this accountability for myself and doing it alongside everyone that's watching.
So question for you. Did you watch any of the basketball games, Stephanie? Is your family basketball fans at all?
Well, we are basketball fans, but not really watching them, more playing or just watching my kid.
That's right. You've got a basketball player. So you've seen this before where your son's team is losing, and they go into the huddle after the quarter, the coach makes some adjustments, and they come out the other side, and they're all of a sudden come back and win. I'm sure you've seen that happen.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do today. And again, for everybody that's participating, again, for the friends that we have here in the Zoom room, welcome. For those that are watching via the live stream, we're glad to have you here as well. For those that are watching after the fact, we're going to go ahead and dive right in. One practice that I've really spent a lot of time cultivating is business planning. And I'm going to bring up a template right now that I've shared and improved over the years that really helps agents to get clarity around it. Now, we're not going to belabor it. We're not going to go as deep as we normally would in a setting like at the beginning of a year. But I will say this, is that you at least need to be aware of that business plan that you created at the beginning of the year. So if you have that, if you've created one in anywhere between October and January, I would encourage you to pull that out and let's take a look at it. I'm just going to give you kind of a quick snapshot of the one that I provide. We'll put this in the show notes for anybody that wants a copy of it. In fact, if any of you here are like, I meant to plan my business this year, but I didn't do it, I'm going to put in the chat right now, and you can start today. There's no time like the present. So give me just a second here. I'm going to put this in the chat. So this is a template that you can utilize. Keep in mind that this is a view-only document, so you'll need to make a copy of it. Again, for those that are watching on the live stream, we'll get that to you after. And so you can take notes and go back and fill this in later. But the template that I'm going to bring up for everybody right now gives you the ability to really take a look at not just what success in your business looks like. And keep in mind that is the premise upon which Stephanie and my partnership formed, is the fact that we both were very, very interested in not just helping real estate agents to create a successful business, but a significant life. And you might be asking, well, what exactly does that mean? We're going to go through a little bit of that today because that's deeply important to us and something that you should be aware of as well. So this template here is the one that I'm referencing. Notice that the very first page is really designed around creating some visual elements to your particular life, right? What I found is that if you just have words on a spreadsheet, it's pretty boring, and you never go back and look at it again because it's just kind of boring and kind of stale. But when you have pictures of the people that you love the most, right? Now, of course, I've got some stock imagery here, but when you put up and copy and paste pictures in here that emotionally connect you to the plan, something triggers inside of you that all of a sudden it's not just a business plan. It becomes very much a motivating force in your life. And so if you don't have that, if you don't have some sort of vision board, and as we recommend, is connect them all together. You'll see here that the different tabs of this spreadsheet, number one is a vision board. Put pictures in there of, and I like to say, in fact, even a little more simplified, since I did this last, are something around faith, family, fitness, and finances. Okay, and most things will kind of fit into those categories. Now, faith will look very different for probably everybody on this call. For some, it could be some affiliation to a particular faith. For some, it might be a charitable cause. For some, it might be caring for people in need. Whatever that looks like for you, you need to have something that's bigger than you and bigger than your business, right? And I say that not just because it's good for business, but it's good for life. A significance-focused life is a happy and a fulfilled life. So having something that is bigger than you that you're working on and connected to is important. Okay, the next step is family. Now, again, everyone's family situation looks different as well. Okay, but the relationships that matter the most to you, you should have a picture of them in here. You should have some reminder that life's greatest treasure and greatest joys come from the relationships that we have. That could be friends, that could be parents, that could be children, that could be nieces and nephews, it could be a spouse, a significant other, whatever that looks like for you. Be sure that you're connecting this business plan and the activities you should be doing to how this is going to impact those lives. Okay, fitness. This is both physical as well as mental, right? You need to be thinking about that your body is the tool that's going to give you the life that you want. And if you don't keep that tool sharp, if you don't take care of yourself, both from a physical as well as a mental standpoint, it's going to break down. Just like any axe you don't sharpen, right? Any vehicle you don't put gas in, it's not going to get you to where you want it to go. Lastly, finances. We include both business as well as investments in here. And Stephanie, you've created success not only in a thriving real estate business, but also in a investment portfolio of properties. Talk to us about maybe how that began. I know when you got started in real estate, it was really about, I just want to create another $10,000, right? You were working for the city of Gresham, and you're like, yeah, just gonna get my license so I can earn some $10,000, extra $10,000, and maybe be home with my kids a little more. When did that start? Did you start to see yourself having investment property? How did that all unfold? Because I think there's a lot of people that are probably in the spot that you were once in and want to be in the spot you're now in. So talk to us about maybe the progression of you going from wanting $10,000 to now buying properties on a regular basis and building to a robust real estate portfolio.
Yeah, and in fact, the desire to invest in real estate is what led me to having a real estate career, because I actually bought my first investment property before I was a licensed real estate agent. And in that process, we didn't feel like we were being served well, and we weren't being advised by the people that we were trusting to get information from. And I mean, this was almost 20 years ago. This was before you could Google and have YouTube tell you what to do. I just felt so lost. And in that process, we thought, I'm learning so much. I actually want to do this again and again and again. I don't have the money to do that. So how can I do it with other people's money? How can I do it for other people is really what it was. How can I be a part of this process for others? And then that really the only goal I had other than our investment strategy was to save $10,000. I wanted to make enough commissions as a side hustle and save $10,000 that would give me some time away from my day job while I was starting our family. So that just led to more and more. We realized the opportunity that was there in the real estate space, whether it's selling real estate, helping others achieve their real estate goals, and then also achieving those real estate goals for ourselves. And with that, I mean, the other F that I really want to add to our strategy here is freedom. Because I think all of these things lead to freedom. And in some way, we're all trying to achieve freedom. That money is good for what it does for us or what we can use it to do for others. So we're not chasing money, we're chasing freedom. We're chasing a Friday afternoon that I can have with my kids because I'm not worried about this next transaction blowing up. We're chasing a retirement lifestyle that lives off of passive income. We're chasing a way to be part of the real estate industry without worrying about where's my next transaction coming from. So that's what my board looks like.
That's amazing, Stephanie. I really like that last F. You're right, and all of those support that, whether that be faith, whether that be family, whether that be fitness and finances, they all kind of tie back to creating freedom, right? Freedom from whether it be being unhealthy, freedom from a lack of purpose, freedom from unfulfilling relationships. That's awesome. Super brilliant. I love that. Okay, very good. So I hope everybody at this point, at least, whether you're using this template or another one, that you've come to the conclusion that in order to have a new reality in the future, right? Even in this Q2, Q3, Q4, and the years that come, is you have to be able to visualize. You have to actually be able to see it. And one of the fastest ways that oftentimes people will see is they'll see somebody else who has what they want, and they see that picture in their mind, and they're like, oh my goodness, I want to have the career that person has. I want to have the business that person has. I want to have the fitness. In fact, just the other day, my family, we went to a swim park in a nearby town. And my wife told me, she's like, look at that lady's physique. Holy cow. And I'm like, I've trained myself to not do that, honey, but okay. She's like, no, I went and talked to her. She said she was a hurdler in college. She's like, isn't she so fit? I'm like, she's fit. It was so interesting. My wife is like walking in the house. She's like, okay, I can do this. And she's got buying all these healthy foods. Last night we were in the grocery store, and she's like all these foods I can't even pronounce. And she's like all committed now because she could see in her mind that she had a new vision of her own fitness. And my invitation to all of us is that sometimes we go through life, and it's these certain people enter our life, and we're like, oh my goodness, that's a new vision of what I want to have for fitness or for faith or for family or for finance, whatever, right? We kind of see this and like, ooh, I want to be more like that. And what I'm encouraging you to do is to not just wait for those people to cross your path that inspire you to want to be a little bit more, but to proactively go seek out those things, right? Seek out somebody who you really admire in those areas, and just expedite that path a little bit, right? Expedite that process. And when I say spend time with them, so for example, if my wife were to spend time with this hurdler lady, like her path would be accelerated even more, right? So what we're saying here is that this first page of your business plan, whatever template you're using, it would behoove you to spend some time with that person, meaning have an image of them. And if it's somebody you can learn from, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a magazine, like have some way that at least on a regular basis, you're spending time with that person, learning what they're learning, thinking how they think. And you'll start to see your reality start to change very quickly. And most people don't think like this. This is why most people live very mediocre, unfulfilling lives, is because they're very dormant in their ability to dream and then put a plan in place to make that dream a reality. And what we're inviting you to do here today is to think bigger than that and to not let that happen, right? To actually proactively decide who you want to be by looking for a role model and then spending time with that person, adopting the activities that they have so you can have the life that they have. So let's go ahead and jump into this next portion here, which is the blueprint. And again, if you have another template, great. At this point, you shouldn't necessarily be creating this. Hopefully you already have this in place and you're just reviewing it, right? I even recommend, if you'll notice up here from my toolbar up here, the very first thing at the very top, the very first thing I click on every day is my Think Bigger operating system. And that's what TBOS stands for. And I review it. It has pictures that inspire me. It has words now on this page here that inspire, that creates a more clear vision of the dad I want to be, the husband I want to be, the provider I want to be, the athlete that I want to be, all these different areas. And so my invitation to you, and by the way, I update that almost every time I read it. I change a couple words, right? Because my vision has gotten more clear. The closer I get to being the person that I want to be in these areas, the more clear the vision becomes. And so I would not encourage this to just be a dust collector somewhere, but actually a living document, an active document, right? Because that makes it become much more personal. So I would encourage you to revisit your big why at minimum quarterly, right? But you might even get in the practice of being like, ooh, like I see a tweak there. I learned something from one of my mentors that makes me think I want to do this slightly differently. Okay. So 5 years.
And that's the whole concept of thinking bigger, right? Is that you get there and then you're thinking, what's bigger than this? And then what's bigger than this? When I set out to put $10,000 in the bank so that I could stay home with my babies for 6 months and not have to work a day job, I did that. And then I thought, what's bigger than that? And when I had one investment property, I thought, what's bigger than that? And be careful that you can have a never satisfied complex. So I would warn people on that. But really, this is an opportunity to reflect and say, wow, look at what I've accomplished, to be living in the game, to be saying, this is awesome. I set this out for myself and I've accomplished it. And now how can I think one step bigger than that?
Yeah, we do get these more clear vantage points the closer we get to the goal. And I think, as to your point, Stephanie, is that there's definitely there can be this unending chase of happiness, whereas we ought to recognize that happiness is the journey, right? It's oftentimes when we get there, we find out that actually the exciting part was the journey of becoming. So enjoy the process. Great point. Okay, so 1 year goals, again, I would revisit that. And you might, at this point, ask yourself, how am I doing, right? Now, for those of us in real estate, we recognize that the first quarter of the year might not be the strongest quarter of the year. It might be the second, right? The second quarter is the quarter of the year where not the majority of your income, but from a percentage standpoint, the highest percentage of your income comes in Q2, right? Hence, we're doing this now to be sure that we're focused on doing the right activities. Now, you'll learn if you didn't this year is that much of the work you do in Q1 actually is the reason why you get paid more in Q2, right? Nevertheless, this is just a quarter break. This isn't the end of the game. So don't get caught up on where you're at right now. The key is make whatever adjustments in the huddle now and get back at it, right? There's still lots of opportunity. In fact, I would even say, and Stephanie, you can speak to this, that we're probably a bit delayed this year because people are kind of hanging on for this proposed interest rate cut. Are you seeing that maybe this year's market is a little bit delayed over previous years?
Yeah, we had a lot of people that have just been sitting on the sidelines. And with our strategy, we know that we are staying top of mind with them and we're staying in front of them because we have that strategy in place. So, I mean, I'm not trying to strong arm anyone and say, buy something even when you're not comfortable with it. But it's great to say, I am still in your world all the time so that when you are ready, and now we're starting to get those calls of people saying, I've just accepted that interest rates aren't going to change and it doesn't change my plans and my goals for my life. Life events continue to happen. And I'm just going to have to accept that it may cost me a little bit more, or I'm going to have to give up that interest rate. So now these people are coming back out, and second quarter is looking really strong for us.
Great. Okay, so let's move in now. The next part of the plan, if you're using this template again, is really to take a look at what are the set aside times that I'm dedicating to be away from my business and focused on things outside of business. Okay. So these are some major holidays that you might start with. And then there's some proposed vacation times over here. Okay. So I think the important thing to take note here is that these are not prescriptive. But if you really want to have a life of significance, which is the definition of thinking bigger, right? It's a successful business and a significant life, is that it's important to actually put in the big rocks first. That if you say, I'll take a break when things slow down, and that's always your MO, the reality is sometimes things never slow down. Is that you're always busy working on something. Meanwhile, the relationships that matter most to you grow up, the age, your aging parents pass on. Like, I don't mean to be a doomsdayer here, but I do want to wake us up a little bit to say that, sometimes you've got to make a draw a line in the sand and say, we're going to go to the beach, right? We're going to go take, even if it's an overnight, even if it's a couple of days, even if it's whatever. And guess what? Business will work in and around that. And my question to you is, if it doesn't, are you okay with that? And if you're not, are your priorities right? Right. And I get that we all need funding in order to take care of those things that, that we want to pursue. But at the same time, if we don't actually make a stand to say, I'm going to put these other areas of my life in on a regular basis, then I think we might end up looking back with some regret. Stephanie, you do this well. I know as we've begun to partner, you'll tell me, hey, I'm out this week, I'm out this. And it's been even at some of the busiest times, right, of the market. How have you gotten comfortable over time really saying, I'm checking out, I'm out?
Well, it's reminding ourselves what we're working for, that it's for that freedom. It's for that freedom that I'm working for. So am I working to put a number in the bank account? But what good is that doing? And if it's not affording me the life that I want to live, then was it really worth it? So I've got to prioritize that. And anyone that knows me personally knows that I'm in the mom phase of the kids getting a little bit older. And I'm looking at that, like, how many summer vacations, how many spring breaks did I chase the transaction and miss out on an opportunity to have that time with them? Because that is going to go away, and there will always be opportunity to make money. So I'm always focused on my freedom number, and my freedom lifestyle that I want to look at, and going back to, who am I doing this for and what am I doing this for?
And I think one of the things that we're going to teach as we get further into actually building out your perfect day is that if you put those big rocks in first and then really commit to make the remaining time very effective by being in the right conversations with the right frequency, you really can have it all. You don't have to choose, am I going to be a good mom? Or am I going to provide for my family? Like, you can actually have both, but you do have to prioritize in each of these areas, including family, including finances. They both can fit. There's 24 hours in a day, right? And probably not everyone here sleeps 8 hours. I know I don't, but that's 16 waking hours, right? And even 8 working hours, let's say, right? In 8 hours time, can you have enough conversations to drive the needle in your business so that you can really be present for those dinners, so that you can really be present on certain hours of the weekend, right? Can you make enough headway doing the right things during the work hours to where you can have it all? And our answer is yes you can, and we are going to help with that. So let's keep rolling here. As you fill out, again, using this template for those who are adding up this number of days, will help you to calculate a very important component of all of this, which is your dollar per hour. Stephanie, I know this has been helpful for you over the years to know your dollar per hour. Talk to us about how that maybe has transformed the way that you look at what activities you should be doing and which ones you should be delegating.
Yeah, when I start looking at some of these activities and I say, would I pay someone else to drive half an hour there, half an hour back, so like an hour of time? Would I pay someone $200 to pick up a lockbox? No, I would not. That'd be crazy. So why am I doing that? Would I pay someone to call my database for an hour and end up with a new referral or an appointment? Yes, I would pay someone $200 for that. So I'm going to pay myself that $200 for that activity. and have someone else go pick up the lockbox for $25.
I think that just kind of drove home the point of what I said, is that oftentimes it's like, I haven't had any time to generate new business, so I'm going to have to work some extra open houses over the weekend. Now, I'm not criticizing any methods, but I will say that that decision that you just laid out for us right there of no, I need to go get the lockbox. Sometimes we do that because maybe we haven't actually calculated our dollar per hour. And other times it's because we're hiding from real conversations. And it's much more comfortable to be busy in real estate than to actually be in the business of real estate. And we can all be guilty of this. I know on a regular basis, we're all making decisions of like, oh, I can do that. I'll just take care of that real quick. No big deal. But in reality, we always have to be asking ourselves, is this the best and highest use of my time? Just like we would for a property, right? Is this the highest and best use for this property? Is this the highest and best use of my time right now? And it really comes down to how many conversations do I need to be in, which we're going to get to here in just a minute. How many conversations do I need to be in order to get to my goal? And have I had those or not yet? If the answer is no, then there's probably no administrative tasks that you should be doing that should be prioritized ahead of that, right? Any other tips you'd have on that, Stephanie, as far as how you, again, with a very busy business, closing, between 80 and 100 homes a year, how do you be sure that you have those conversations when you could be tied up with inspections and with flyers and with all the stuff that keep real estate agents busy? Any of the tips you have on how you've prioritized those conversations?
Well, it's really hard to take that leap and say, I'm going to hire someone, because we look at every dollar and say, if I could save this, or what if I pay someone to do something and then I don't have enough work for them? You know that the more leverage you put in place, the more opportunity you'll have to work in your 20%, the more opportunity you'll have to do what brings you the results. And actually, one of my favorite ones that I got from our mentor, Don, he said, put a stack of $100 bills on your desk, and for every hour you waste, I want you to mail that to me. I thought, well, no, no, I want to keep that $100. But really, that's what you're looking at is, am I willing to waste this hour, whether it be on a non-productive activity or a less productive activity? Am I willing to waste this hour? And when you start thinking of it as this is money going out, you're going to think of it differently. And then on top of it is, where is my joy? Where do I want to be spending my time so that I'm actually excited to wake up and do this business every day? Because this is a business of a grind that sometimes we have to remind ourselves why we're doing it, who we're serving, what energizes us. If I am bogged down by tasks that I don't enjoy, I'm not going to look forward to the day. So I've got to be thinking about what fuels me and what makes me want to do more. And then I just keep doing more.
You bring up a great point about this energy management. Sometimes we think about time management, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reality is we can't manage time. Time comes and goes. What we can manage is our commitments. What are we committed to? And our energy. For example, there's certain activities that drain us, then find a way to either delegate those or move them to a time of the day that's not our prime energy. I would say part of the reason why we've shifted some of our training to 11 is because between the hours of 9 and 11 are oftentimes our very best hours of interaction, right? And we want to preserve those for professionals to be actually actively engaged with the people who could generate business for them, right? That 9 to 11 should be sacred time to where you're really using that best energy to do the most important work in your business. Because if you don't, and you use it on administrative tasks that drain you, or conversations that drain you, there's a good chance that, like Stephanie said, you're going to have a dry reservoir when your business is in need of some water, need of some irrigation, and you're not going to have anything to pull from. So use that time to get up and get in conversations that fuel you. I know for me, in Pro Insight, for those that don't know, is a technology company that serves relationship-based professionals. I've found one of my favorite activities is calling our members and getting getting feedback from them. How's it going? What are your wins? What else can we do to help you win? And it's really it's great energy for me, and it's really fun, and it causes me to then want to make calls to others who should be on our platform, right? So I think structuring your time in such a way that you find things that jump your energy, conversations, and then parlay that into conversations that maybe you need to have, and they maybe need a little more courage in order for you to pick up the phone and call, because then you'll have that energy. You'll be managing that energy. One of the spaces here on this template is for you to identify the activities that you need to leverage, right? Stephanie's talked about those, like the ones that drain you, like put them out here. Doesn't mean that right away you can go hire somebody to outsource those, but you'll at least start to be aware that I got to get these things off my plate. At minimum, I got to move them to a time of the day that's not my key energy time. And best case, you start to find people to whom you can outsource, and then maybe delegate. Maybe this even becomes a job description for your next hire of somebody that could really help you. And by the way, there's a lot of people out there. I hear from people regularly that just say, hey, I'm looking to just pick up a few hours. Do you have anything? Right? There's talented people out there that have a few hours, maybe while kids are at school or after hours when, things are a little quieter. Anyway, there's talented people out there that are underutilized in the economy, that if you know what it is that you need people to do, there's a good chance that if you open your eyes to that, you'll start to find people who can fill that gap for you, even on a very, very low budget. And oftentimes it's people in other countries, right? To where obviously the wages compared to American workers are much more reasonable. So anything about this economic plan, Stephanie, without going to, again, this is designed everybody to be a review, not a full-on business plan, but so I encourage you to be reviewing your plan. Or anything that you want to, as we kind of look at this kind of economic plan that is maybe meaningful for this time of year, or even this year in particular, that you could give some guidance around as far as what we're seeing here.
Yeah, well, what we're doing right now is looking at what we've closed so far this year and what we have in the pipeline coming up for next year, because we have some adjustments that we need to make on our price points and our average commissions and even our conversion rates, because we set a year based on what we had hoped it would be and some predictions. I mean, not just based on hope, but like, this is what we want the year to look like, and we know what we need to do. And it's okay to make adjustments to say, interest rates haven't changed. How has that affected my price point? There's some pressure on commissions right now. How has that affected my average commission? We're still getting a lot of no's. We're getting more no's than yeses, or not right now than yes. So how does that affect my conversion rate? These are the adjustments that you want to make, and you're not just making them based on feeling like, oh, I think we're going to make this much. You're looking at what you've done so far this year, your average price point, and what you have in the pipeline, and how many conversations you know that you still need to have. And maybe there are more not right now than yeses than what you've had in previous years. So it's okay to change your rates, change those percentages.
Great. I think one thing that we added this past year that I think is a positive improvement for this template is to identify the people that you're calling and the average conversion rate of those people, right? If at the end of the day, and I've heard this from I don't know how many top producers that I've spoken with, it's how many conversations can I be in with people about real estate? At the end of the day, that's really should be the kind of driving activity that will move the needle in your business. And how am I getting into those conversations, right? And so if you were to look at this over here, which is the Pro Insight Elevating Your Influence ladder over here, right? You'll see that depending upon how you go about getting into conversations with people, there's a different conversion rate. If you're simply calling, circle prospecting, for example, right, then your conversion rate is going to naturally be quite low, right? So you would need to put in a 0.1% conversion rate, which would then tell you, right? So in this situation here, to close 22 homes a year, this particular person needs to be having 5 daily live conversations to get their needed appointments, okay? And this is all based on just simply math. But if I were to say, you know what, I'm not going to call as an advisor, I'm going to call as a solicitor, right? Now all of a sudden, oops, that wasn't right. Okay. I need 4,000 live conversations, right? I do that right? 0.01, maybe that's the right number. There we go. So 21 live conversations a day in order to get my appointments because I'm calling as a solicitor. Whereas if I can call, and again, a solicitor is simply you're calling people that you don't know, who don't know you, trying to get them engaged in real estate. A better strategy is to call people that you do know, right? And even better than that is to not call to ask them if they want to buy or sell, calling to get something, but call to say, who else do you need to know? Who, like, bring value to them. People will be more open to taking those calls, okay? So if we were to say that number, okay, you'll see now that your number of calls that you need to be on every day is dropping. Now, if you call as an advisor, in other words, you have an advisor relationship. Now, if you're saying, I don't know how to create that, one of the very first things I would encourage you to do is act like an advisor, right? What does that mean? It means, hey, I'd like to do an annual wealth preview for you. I've ran some numbers based on your home, and I've recorded a quick little Zoom call that I'd love to share with you, or I'd love to hop on a Zoom call and just walk you through that. I know a lot of people with the changes in the market are curious about what their home is worth. I put some numbers together for you, regardless of whether or not you're looking to make a move now or kind of deep into the future. I thought it'd be helpful as your real estate advisor to give you a quick update on what's happening with your value, with the value of your property right now. That's a great way to establish yourself now as an advisor versus just a vendor. Okay, as you start to act like an advisor would act, and people will start to treat you like that. So this conversion right here, right, is for an advisor. And in order to get to these numbers that we've talked about here, right, that would mean 5 live conversations every day to get your needed appointments, or 100 per month. Okay. Any thoughts on this, Stephanie, as far as how you and your team have gone about elevating the value of the conversations you're having with people, to where it's not just, hey, how's the weather, right? But to where it really is impactful and meaningful for the people you're talking to?
Yeah, we're actually gearing our conversations towards identifying life events that then position us to be advisors. If you call someone up and you say, hey, would you like to know what your home is worth? They're like, oh no, don't worry about it. I don't want to bug you, or I can get that on Zillow, or I get your emails every month already. There are a million places where people can find information, and some of our information could be more valuable, but they maybe don't think of it that way. But if you just say, do you want this? They're most likely going to say no thanks, but give them a reason to want it or a reason to need it. So just have some real genuine conversations about what's going on in their life, which will uncover their preparations for retirement, or mom is ill and we're thinking about moving her into an assisted living. You're going to uncover those things, and then instead of would you like to have, we're just providing it. Oh gosh, yeah, my mom has been pretty sick. It's been really hard for her since dad passed away. They're going to open up those conversations for you. And you know what? Let me provide some information for you that I think will be really helpful as you look at the whole picture and try and navigate some big decisions that you have. Oh, really? You're willing to do that? That would be so great. Thank you so much.
I love it. And I think if you're looking at these numbers saying, well, wait a minute, Justin, I see that 4% isn't the highest conversion rate. How do I get to this 10% conversion rate, right? So Stephanie talked us through exactly. And let's see what happens here, by the way. When you go to a 10% conversion rate, it's 2 of these conversations a day. And what might these conversations look like? Conversation that Stephanie just had, when she identifies these life events, right? She's looking at what other professionals might be needed at this time to serve this family going through this difficult time, right? She might recognize that maybe it's a professional organizer, right? Maybe it's a tax professional, maybe it's an estate attorney, maybe it's a senior care facility, right? She's listening and looking for opportunities to bring other professionals to the table that would serve that family. Not at an inappropriate time, but only when it's truly needed. See, by the way, I've served other clients that are going through that spot, and they've found that talking through with a senior concierge, like a senior advisor at this point, has been really helpful for them. Do you guys have somebody like that you've worked closely with that might be able to offer some expertise that I wouldn't be able to offer? No, we haven't. Would you be open to meeting one? I know some of my other clients have really found value in that. Yeah, you bet, right? Now, what you've done is you've served that client at an elevated level, and you've also brought potentially an ideal client to someone who's in that senior advisory business, right? Someone who's connecting people to kind of more senior centers, and again, that's just one example, right? But in all of these conversations, you have a choice to say, how can I serve them at a high level, and who else needs to be brought to the table? And it's at that moment when you start to really take your conversion rate to another level, because you've brought in another professional. So you've not only served your client, but you've served another professional. And now that professional's database starts to open up to you, right? Now, when they're talking to their clients, they're thinking about reciprocation back, because you two start to collaborate. Okay, that's not going to happen overnight, but over time, you'll start to see that their database begins to be somewhat adopted into yours as well, because they're now looking for opportunities in return. So I would encourage you to be, again, at the highest level, even beyond advisor, which is to be a director, which is to start directing people to the other professionals who can serve them, being very valuable to them. So anyway, that's a way to really make your conversations very meaningful, very impactful, and for you to start to adopt these other professional databases, it's to some degree into your own.
And the cool thing is that these people are basically having these conversations for you. And that's why the conversion rate's so much higher, because by the time they get to you, their need has already been identified. Instead of calling 100 people and hoping that one might be thinking about needing to have a real estate transaction, the need has already been identified and they're coming to you edified. So these people are already having these conversations. I just taught yesterday my bug spray guy how to be opening up these conversations for us. So it doesn't have to be the attorneys and the financial advisors, because he was telling me about trying to sell people the regular maintenance plan. And he was struggling with that. So I was able to advise him on how to have those conversations. And I just said, start it with, how long do you plan on being in your home? And that's going to serve your purpose, so that you know what level of service that you can offer to them, and give you that opportunity to make that introduction. So imagine how many homes he's going into. And if 10% of people are thinking of buying or selling that year, that's going to be more business than I could generate on my own. Because again, I'm looking for my freedom. So if my conversion rate goes down, I might be saying I'm unwilling to make 1,000 calls this week. So I've got to find a better way.
Yeah, and what you just shared, Stephanie, which is brilliant, which is the pest control guy is having conversations for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've essentially hired him, and the only thing you pay him are people needing, right, pest control services, right, in return.
Yeah.
Nothing off your bottom line. And you've essentially found somebody who is, again, bringing people to the table at the very moment that they need you. So anyway, there's people agents who will get out there and they'll just work their fingers to the bone, who don't have a lot of freedom. And what Stephanie's talking about here is a strategy that allows you to have both, allows you to have it all, where you can have, again, a successful business and have a significant life, because you're not the one doing all the work yourself. So I think it's important that we recognize, that there's a lot of other people that can benefit by being brought to the table, and by bringing you to the table, that actually can be of value to their clients, part of their value proposition. So good stuff. Okay, so let's talk here. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that perfectly feeds into those pillars of activity that we've committed ourselves to in the beginning of the year. This is the time to be reviewing that. And if you're saying either, did I do those? Did I keep those commitments? Or maybe they're still on the schedule. And how is it working for me? And that's exactly what we're doing every quarter, is to say, what are the lead generation pillars that I committed to? And if I'm not on track with my business, I need to say, did I just not do them? Or did they not work? Or did I not give it enough time? Or if I'm saying I am on track on my business, which one of these things is working? And maybe I'm going to identify some of them that aren't, and I can just do more of those.
Great point. One way to look at this is your sphere of influence, okay? And then your centers of influence, right? The strategy we just spoke about enlisting everybody from, tax professionals to pest control professionals is a center of influence strategy, right? It's engaging professionals who are already serving clients who could very well be your ideal clients, okay? So I encourage you, and I think one practice that we teach to those that are members of Pro Insight is attend our weekly call, learn from the professional being highlighted, how you can add value to that professional. And on Fridays, create an appointment with one of the professionals that one of the professional industries that we've highlighted, and actually ask the questions, right? Ask the questions of, right, who's an ideal client? Like, what does your ideal client look like? And who's a great referral source for you? And to whom are you referring business to? And what's a key trigger event that would be a perfect time to bring you to the table? You get into a conversation with a professional weekly, having that conversation, you're essentially training a group of people on how to bring you up, right? Because that conversation will be reciprocated back. Well, tell me about your ideal client. What's a good trigger event for you, right? And now you start to really create this powerful bond with someone who can be very valuable to you. So that center of influence strategy can be game changing for you. Now, the sphere of influence one, right? This is one that is going to be catered very much to kind of your preferences. And I think, Stephanie, you mentioned this earlier. What's the stuff that gives you attention? Do you love client events? Are you like, I can't wait to get back with my people in person again? Or is it like, oh, I can't wait till this thing's over. I can't wait. Right? Like, there's a different feeling that you get about each of these things and others that you can do for your sphere of influence, and find stuff that's genuinely you, that allows you to be happy, right? I see Kim Woodhouse, who's here in the private room with us. She did a Santa event, and like the conversations we were having back and forth leading up to that, she sounded so excited, and I don't know if she still felt that way at the end, but she was like super excited about bringing Santa to her community, and it seemed like it was a bit of a party for her, right? And so I would find stuff that's again, it's all going to be a lift, right? It's all going to be work, right? So don't think that it's just going to come easily, but you should find stuff that at the end of the day you smile and you're like, that was fun. Like, I'm glad I did that. That was consistent with my DNA. Like, I was happy to be in those situations. I could be my genuine self with my clients as I connected with them, whether it was individual coffee meetings or whether it was big group client events. Anything else you'd add to that, Stephanie, as far as how to choose what activities you should be doing to stay connected to your sphere of influence?
Well, it's really important to track the results of those activities. So, for example, we just did a community Easter egg hunt that used to be just for a neighborhood that we farmed. So it was small, and we decided to open it up to the community. We invite all of our clients. And I'd say every day leading up to that event, I asked myself, why am I doing this? We were excited about it, but it was work. And you get those thoughts of, is anyone even going to come? Are they going to enjoy it? We had probably 3 times the amount of people than we expected. And it was so fun and so energizing. And that's great. And that's good for the energy. But I need to be looking at that as, how did it feed my business? Not just my energy and made me feel good and I smiled through the day, but what did it do for my business? So you've got to track the results. We tracked how many people were added to our database. When people signed in, we had them check if they would like a market evaluation of their home. So how many CMAs did we provide? How many conversations did we have? And we set those goals going into the event. It wasn't like, we're just going to throw a bunch of Easter eggs on the grass and hope that somebody wants to buy a house today. It doesn't work that way. So we set our intentions leading up to the event of, we're doing this because we want to add this many people to the database, have this many conversations, and then eventually by the end of the year, hopefully, because it doesn't happen that quickly, we would be able to track back, because of the conversations that we had resulted in referrals or transacting with the people that were there. And now the event's over. And we've got it all documented how that worked, and we can update that throughout the year. And in fact, yesterday I got a call from someone that they were in my database. They are a past client, but they were at the event. So I'd like to think that them being at the event, me having that personal conversation, elevated the opportunity for them to refer to me. So I'm now working with someone that they referred to me. And also, that person that was referred said, yeah, she told me about this event that you guys did. I think that's so cool. So I can actually track results to that, because we are here for a purpose of business and profit. And it's okay to say that made me feel good, but did it still feed my business?
Yeah, I love it. Great boxes to check, both of them, right? Did it feel good, and did it actually bring business? Awesome. And I think the same is true of your center of influence business, right? Is that, are you pouring value into people who are actually moving the needle for you, right? Are they interested in having conversations on your behalf? Are they having those conversations? Or is there somebody else, maybe in their same industry, that would be more excited about actually adding value to their clients through you, and adding value to you? So it's always great. I think the beautiful thing about the free market is that you should always be evaluating what's the best path forward. And I think having a backup plan, meaning sometimes we choose a certain loyal partner because we like them and they're very friendly. But we have to ask ourselves the question of, like, is this the best partner, right? Is this the best one for me? And I'm all about loyalty to the right people, but sometimes we're loyal to certain professional partners who maybe they were just nice to us, or maybe they're our provider, and so we wouldn't dare go have a conversation with anybody else because I get my insurance over here. They might be the perfect person to provide you insurance to your home and auto, but they might not be the right person for you to engage with your clients, right? There's many professionals from a number of different industries who don't actually have a growth bone in their body. Like, they're done, they're coasting towards retirement, they've got their book of business, it's built. And so while they're happy to serve you and your particular family's needs, it doesn't mean that you need to not go build a relationship with somebody who's in their industry that wants to grow and that's open to serving your clients. So be aware of that. I think competition is good, right? And I'm not saying go an inch deep and a mile wide with 10 different providers from the one, expecting that's going to improve your chances, because in most cases it won't. You actually have to go deep. My encouragement is just to be sure and go deep with the right person. So this one here, Stephanie, I know you and James have a practice of buying additional investment properties every year. I'm assuming that that's true for 2024 as well. You guys have a goal this year for additional property or properties?
Yeah, the goal is one per year. And when the real estate market has changed, we've had to change our strategy. That's what this is all about, you don't change the goal, you just change the strategy. So, maybe my real estate business isn't bringing in a lot of extra income that I can throw at investment properties. That's okay. I've just got to change the strategy. I'll get it either way.
I like it. All right, let's jump to the daily schedule. Again, notice, you guys, that all of this feeds into this bottom, which is the very tactical, right? All the way up here, why are we doing this? And even the page before, right? The images of why we're doing this, right? Why we're doing this, what it looks like 5 years, 1 year, right? What all this looks like. This gets into what are, kind of from a tactical standpoint, how many closings we need to have, specifically what activities are we doing? And it all culminates in, does our day actually reflect the fact? I have a module inside of our member area around mindset, and it's an audit, a desire and belief audit. In other words, we say that we want certain things, but if we were to go ask our calendar, if our calendar agrees that we want that, would our calendar agree with us? Not just what our calendar is in the future, but like what we actually did with our time. And we start to realize really quickly of desire to have something must be supported by the activities that would get us there. Otherwise, it's delusional, right? Otherwise, we're just kidding ourselves. And so it's important that I think we have those conversations, those tough conversations with ourselves, when we say, I really want a big business. I really want to have, more clients. I really want to have professional partners. I really want to grow my real estate organization. Like, okay, cool. Prove to me that that's true. Prove to me the conversations that you've been in actually reflect that those desires are true. And so one way, of course, to do this is to proactively plan out what should our day look like. Now, I'm going to share with you, this is just a template, right? This doesn't have to be what things always look like. But let me give you an example. Some of the trap doors that people step on is the fact that they are the CEO of their business, yet they work in the mailroom, right? You've probably heard me share this metaphor in the past, is that in days of old, the mailroom, there was no email. So the mailroom was a physical department where people sorted mail. Your mind probably goes to Buddy the Elf, right? And in there were people that were just kind of getting started in a corporation. It was an entry-level position for many of the people there. And as a result, you would never see the CEO from his ivory tower, right, going down and working in the mailroom. Yet we profess to say that we are CEOs of our company, yet we spend all day checking the mail, meaning our email inbox, okay? So what I would recommend is having an inbox sweep at least 3 times a day. Keep in mind, we're not brain surgeons. We're not on call with the only way our patients on the surgery bed can contact us, or the staff contact us via email. Like, we're going to be okay, right? So very first thing before you do the most important activities is to sweep your inbox. I did that this morning. I went through, I unsubscribed from a bunch of stuff. Okay. I also archived a bunch of stuff really quickly. I found a few things that were pertinent to today, and I took action on those things. Okay. And some other stuff I delayed until later in the day. So you either delete it, delegate it, delay it, okay, or do it. So delete it is all the junk that isn't going to help you in your business. Okay. Delegate it is stuff that needs to happen, but not by you. To delay it is, it does need to be done by you, but not right now. It can wait till this afternoon. And lastly, do it. This needs to be done by me right now. Urgent and important. It's got to be done. Okay. So there should be very few things that need to be done right now. Now you might say, well, this only take me 30 seconds to respond really quickly. Okay, fair enough, but be careful, because that's a slippery slope, because 30 seconds times 10 emails is, right, pretty soon you've eaten up too much time. So just be careful around that. But get that inbox. I like to get it all the way to 0. Now, some of you might think I'm crazy, but trust me, it'll be back at 35 here by the time I go back to it again, if not higher, right? So like, actually archive stuff, like get it out of there. What I find is a big trap for me as I go back and I look at the same emails that are starred, and I think to myself again, do I need to do that? No, that can wait. But I ask that question probably 10 times per email if I don't get it out of there. So I actually have a software called Todoist. I think there's a free version of it, but it connects to my Gmail to where I can actually assign that email to pop up for me later in the day. Okay. Like, create a task to go back and look at that. That way my inbox, I've cleaned it out and I can close my inbox and know that I'm good. Okay. Now you may or may not decide to actually sweep it all the way to 0, but just know that every time you look at something again and make the decision, do I need to do this now or later, you're wasting precious time. So give yourself a window, I'd say 30 minutes or less, to go through your inbox first thing in the morning. And then another great practice that I see top agents doing, right, is to study the market. Okay, so that you can actually connect with current clients. In other words, check what's actually happening around their properties, give them any updates. I found when I was a high-end home builder that if I would reach out to my clients very first thing in the morning and tell them what was expected to happen that day, they would not call me all day. But if I didn't make that call, they were calling saying, hey, what's going on the project today? And I would spend all this time that I could be actually moving the project forward, entertaining their calls, right? So actually have a habit of reaching out to your existing clients, giving them a quick update. Now, maybe that's a weekly thing for you. I know some agents do it daily. Stephanie, what does that look like for you? How are you staying connected to your current clients?
When we are in transaction, we're always ending a task with what's next and what the timeline is, so that they know when to expect it. So it's not necessarily every day if there's not something to talk about. but they always know what is coming next. If they're an active listing, they get a weekly email that describes all of the activities that we did, all of the marketing and everything that happened. And then they get a call that goes over that together and we go over the market. So they know to expect that Monday call. So it sort of does help reduce the amount of Wednesday, Friday, weekend freakouts. And they're never saying, "What are you doing? Why isn't my listing sold? You're not doing enough." I would hope that my clients would never say that or never have that feedback that I don't even know what you're doing to sell my home. So they know to expect that on Mondays. But I mean that's the key, is to always end a conversation with letting them know what's coming next.
I love it. I love it. So you could very well decide, right, as an agent, that this is the time that I'm going to dedicate in order to interact with those clients where I do have something, right? Right. That like the next step is here. I'm going to get that out of the way first thing in the morning. That way the client can rest assured that you're in good hands. I know for me, when I'm driving and my wife starts grabbing the wheel or starts hitting the air brake on her side of the car, that I'm not doing a very good job paying attention. And sometimes our clients feel that way. They start saying, well, hey, when are you doing the next open house? Or, hey, what's the update? When people are coming at you for questions, they're not overly satisfied in many cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we beat them to that, we say, here's what's happening. Here's what's next. Here's what just happened. And like all of a sudden they're like, man, I'm in good hands. I can sit over here and read a book while you drive, right? Like all of a sudden they feel like that they're being taken care of. So I would encourage you, any current clients, to just be sure that, as Stephanie identified, that they know what's coming next. Okay. I think, again, those hours between 9 and 11, right, is a great time for you to be proactive. You'll see here that I've dedicated in this particular schedule, right? And this market conditions probably is only a 30-minute deal, I would say. I don't know, how much time do you spend daily, would you say, Stephanie, talking to your your current clients, kind of that process?
Well, I think that, I mean, obviously it depends on how many clients you have at that time. But if on average, let's say the average real estate agent is working with 2 to 3 clients at a time, it shouldn't be more than a 10-minute conversation per client.
Great. Okay, so 30 minutes for most agents would be about right?
Yeah.
Okay, now we have in here between the hours of 9 and 11 to 11:30, real estate related conversations and work social media. Now, when we say work social media, if you all didn't hear the podcast that Stephanie and I recorded yesterday, the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that. Stephanie shares some of her secrets for dominating her marketplace. That social media isn't just a place for you to stand with a megaphone and share, but it's a place for you to go interact with other people. So when I say social media, it's not just posting and ghosting, right? It's actually you being present in the lives of other people. That some of the best content you'll create are actually responses to the posts that your clients are posting. It could be more meaningful for them than seeing another post of yours, is to have you comment and have real engagement in their life. And one thing that you'll find, right, is that when you start to engage with them that way, when they open their news feed, guess what? They're going to start to see your stuff. So if you're like, what's the hack for this algorithm thing? That it's a couple of things. It goes back to just being very engaged in the people's timelines and content that you want to be engaged with you. Like the algorithm loves it when people are interacting and they just assume that you're good friends. And so they're going to put each other's content in front of each other. So use that time, not just as a time to go post, but to really interact, right? And then obviously real estate related conversations. Again, if you can knock these things out and have another inbox sweep before noon, right? Getting in your conversation. So for example, this up here, we identified, let's just say that the average agent has a conversion rate of 4%. That's 5 conversations a day, right? This is an hour, right? Or an hour and a half to have real estate related. Like this is gold time. Now you might say, well, I have an inspection. There's no reason why you can't have, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had that are really productive with people while they're at an inspection, right? So don't feel like you always have to be just sitting at your office. Now that's ideal, right? that you're organized, you get your CRM in front of you, you have social media in front of you, so you know what you should be talking to them about. But also, when extenuating circumstances come up, you can still make calls while you're on the road, right? Stephanie, have you found that that's an effective way for you when you're driving places? Do you call people and use that windshield time as a way to also connect?
I definitely do, but you have to be careful with that because you can forget to document the conversation afterwards. So I really have tried to gear my top five, my really intentional conversations to time that I'm sitting down and giving them my full attention. I took the time to scroll their Facebook real quick, identify something to talk about, check them off the list in my CRM and document the conversation. So just be careful that you're not willy-nilly. I mean, you can call people all you want, but identify your top five where you really are sitting with intentional time to have those conversations. And also to clarify and remind everyone that this time for conversations is not talking with your current clients. It's not calling people and saying, how did you like that house we looked at yesterday? It's not calling your sellers and giving them a market update. This is for people that you are not currently in conversation with. That is what lead gen and prospecting means. It's finding new business, not old business. But I do believe that it's calling past clients. You know, we have a system for after they've closed the transaction where they're getting certain touch points from us at certain times. That's what that time is for, because that's my time they've closed the transaction, have a lovey-feely conversation with them, and ask for a referral.
I love it. Great distinction that, yes, if you're not careful, the comfortable conversations, right? Meaning they all should be comfortable at some level, but your current client conversations, right? The kind of have to conversations can take the place of the need to conversations. That you need to be generating new business. So, or the urgent can take the place of the uber important. So, some of the things that we're going to be putting in place for members of the Think Bigger Real Estate Group is some accountability around this. We've had a conversation, multiple conversations with agents that would be like, if I would just make 2 to 3 calls a day, it would transform my business, which would transform my life. Right? And oftentimes it's the case, right? Is that really big gates swing on very small hinges. Very large ships move about by the tiny adjustment of a rudder. Like your life you're much closer to having the ideal business and the ideal life you want by just putting some simple practices in place. And we're excited to be bringing some systems that will help you to do that. Because again, it's really hard to be present at the dinner table in the evening if you didn't do the work during the day that you know is going to be generating new business. There's a feeling of guilt that I really probably should be working or working late because I didn't get the job done during the day, right? Now, you might not position it like that in your own mind to kind of save face with yourself or with your family, like, oh, I'm working hard over here. But why? Was there time during the day that you were maybe endlessly scrolling or that you were making phone calls that didn't really matter, or even on the right call, but not having the right conversation that really added value? And so again, I'm here to say that I've found for me that having conversations always opens the doors that I want to have opened. And I have to be very deliberate about dedicating time to having those conversations, because my inbox is always filling up. There's always something easier for me to do than to pick up the phone and call people who haven't called in a while. And so again, super important. And again, this is one of the very tiny hinge swings that's going to cause a massive gate swing, right? So as much as it may sound like we're really kind of beating a dead horse here, we just want you to know that this is kind of the intersection where everything changes for people, is when they really dedicate to having meaningful conversations with more people. Anything you want to add to that, Stephanie?
I just really do believe that everyone has the amount of business that they want to have. They have it somewhere. They just don't know how to find it, or they don't know how to convert it. And that's really what Think Bigger Real Estate Group is all about, is just giving you these small things that move the needle, and why someone like me, a top producer, is willing to give away my secrets. They're not secrets. But it might make me sound really fancy if I say that, but give away everything that I'm doing to help other people, even in my own market, become just as successful, because I do believe that there is enough business out there and everyone has that business in their hands somewhere. They just don't know what to do with it.
I had that conversation this morning with an advisor who we work closely with at Pro Insight. It was interesting, as Don, our shared mentor, he said NAR predicts that in the next 12 months, 30% of real estate agents will be eliminated because of the NAR ruling and just what's happening with different market conditions. And some might be like, holy crap, is that going to be me? Right. And I think, imagine how beneficial it would be if in 12 months, 30% of your competition who actually wasn't as serious nor as good as you were eliminated. In other words, those deals that are going to a sister-in-law because she just got licensed and they really want to help her, like those people aren't going to have a value proposition that's strong enough to have a consumer want to choose them. So although it might seem a bit scary at times, I think it's important for us to recognize that this could be the greatest blessing that's happened to this industry in a long time, is that it really cleans it up. Now, it's also a charge to everybody to say, I've got to really create very clear value propositions and be able to articulate them very, very well, because that's going to be required, right? This might be a perfect segue. Stephanie, I knew you had wanted to share just a couple of thoughts about really intelligent business conversations, right? As we kind of move into this next chapter of the real estate industry. How are you and your team, really kind of preparing for that, to be able to have those really intelligent conversations that really set you apart and distinguish you from the hobby agents, right? Those that aren't really serious or good at what they do.
Yeah, well, the first thing that anyone that is listening to this can do is go back through your last 3 years of transactions and document the story. And be prepared to tell that story again, because you can find times in that transaction where you saved the day, where you were the hero, where you protected your client, where you advocated for your client, where you got them more money or you saved them money, where you protected them from lawsuit. There are a million things that a real estate agent does, and we don't tell the story, or we don't tell it well, because we have been told that this is a relationship business, which it is, but that's not all it is. This business is not based on just the relationships you have. And we have been told that all we needed to do was to show up and be liked by people that want to do business with us. Know, like, and trust, right? And what does that really mean? There are plenty of people that know us and like us, and we have been told that that was good enough. And it's not. I'm getting on my soapbox here. I can feel it. But it's but I'd say that is the easiest thing for anyone to do right now, is go back through your last 3 years of transactions and document the story and identify times where you really advocated for your client and where you did something that they couldn't do for themselves or didn't know how to do for themselves. Those are the stories you tell. We all show up. Hopefully, we show up with some sort of a presentation with a new potential client, and it's, here are my Google reviews. Here's something that someone said, Stephanie was so nice, and she always answered her phone, and she gave us flowers on key day, and it was just so lovely. Well, that's great, but that doesn't tell the story of how we got there. Everyone is just looking at the end result. So document that and then put that into something that you can share with people, just the same way that you're sharing your reviews and your testimonies. So when you have that client that's like, how are you justifying what you're worth? This is how you're going to do that. You're going to tell a story, and maybe even ask that client, hey, you've heard the news and I need your help. so that I can level up my business. I know that, remember when we showed up and that refrigerator was missing and it was documented in the contract and I fought for you to get that refrigerator back in the house, whatever that is, remind them of that. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, you totally saved the day. Could you do a little video or write something up for me talking about that? Because as you know, it's more important now than ever that I show my value to future potential clients. And if you did that for them, they'd gladly take 60 seconds to do that. The other thing is how are we now navigating? I mean, someone calls up and they say, hi, I want to see the house on Main Street. We can't, in the future, we can't just be showing up. Okay, sure, I'll meet you at the front door. I know nothing about you. Know nothing about your qualifications. You know nothing about me. When you do that, you are allowing them to treat you as a door opener when you know your value is so much more than that. But you don't want to lose the opportunity to meet them and capture them as a client and convert them into a client. So if you imagine someone's calling, hey, I saw your new listing. I'd love to go take a look at it at 3 o'clock today. Be careful, because what I'm hearing real estate agents now saying is, well, I can't show you that property until you have signed this agreement. Don't go to a no. How can you still go to a yes? You've identified they are available at 3 o'clock today. Awesome. I'd love to show you that property at 3 o'clock today. We have a couple of things that we need to take care of before I can do that. I am required to have a buyer representation agreement in place. And since I know that you're available at 3 o'clock today, I see that there's a coffee shop right around the corner. Let's meet there. I'm going to go over what it means to engage in my services with you. You're going to sign a representation agreement, and then we can head right on over to that property. Because what I'm hearing is a lot of people are really intimidated by, well, what do I do when they just want to see the house? So that's option A. Or you're on the phone with them. You're going to say that. You're going to say, or, since I have you on the phone and maybe you're sitting at your office or maybe you're sitting in your car, can we just hop on Zoom real quick? And let's do that right now. It'll only take about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, great. So would that solve that anxiety? If you're prepared to have that conversation, would that solve that anxiety of what do I do when they just want to see the house?
One thing that is really interesting is you're not talking about this, Stephanie. I think when we're uncertain, other people get uncertain. But when we have certainty in our voice, is okay, great. Now here's the process. Here's the next steps we need to follow. And you might need to say that 100 times in front of a mirror until you get really comfortable just saying, looking someone in the eye or taking the call, being like, great, I'm excited. Yes, I am available for that. I have a couple things we need to do ahead of time. Let's meet here and we'll walk you through that, right? And just get really comfortable saying that, because that is the new standard. That's not a you decision. That's legislated, right? That's now required. So get comfortable with it. People will be comfortable if you're comfortable. If you're confident, they'll be confident. If you're not confident, then they're not going to be confident. So practice until you are confident.
Yeah, because if you're going to stumble over that and, oh, well, I can't really show you the house until you sign this. You've given them an objection before they even had one. So go to the yes. It's yes, and let's do this first. I think it's amazing. I've been trying to do this forever. We have all of our buyers sign a buyer representation agreement, but we've had to be careful because sometimes they'd say, well, I just wanted to look at the house. And if you're not going to show it to me, somebody else will. And we lose that opportunity to get in relationship with that client. But now, what a blessing. But everyone is doing this. It's not just me that's requiring this.
I love what you talked about, stories. People make decisions based on emotion and they justify it logically. And I think your point about understand the stories of the clients that you've served, and not just understand it, but like tell it in an emotional format. Like, what, your situation reminds me so much of some clients that I served. This is the situation that they were in. and talk a little bit about the pain that they were in. This at the mother-in-law just passed. They weren't quite sure what to do with the house, and they could feel the pressure from the other siblings that they needed to make a decision fast. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that, but it was a bit heavy for them. And now fast forward to the end, they sold the house. The siblings were all happy. And so to where you're talking about the pain that they were in, you're talking about the happy story that was created. And then you're positioning yourself as in, and we bridged them, we helped them get there. It's like resonate with, that pain that you're talking about is very similar to what we're feeling right now, right? And that happy feeling that you're saying that they were in when this is all said and done, that's where we want to be at. So please show me the bridge across, because I'm feeling a little scared and I want to feel super comfortable. And so I love the fact of really going back to your clients and identifying those stories. And you might ask yourself, who are the clients, my ideal clients, the people that I want to serve? What life events are they going through? Is it first-time home buyer, right? Is it I just relocated and I'm looking for a new house? Is it we just retired and we're downsizing? Is it, our kids are growing up and we want to move to that bigger home that we can really enjoy? Like, what is that life event love serving? And go back and find the stories and think about the pain of the problem that people were going through, the uncertainty, and be willing to talk about that with people, saying, this reminds me so much of a client. You guys remind me of a family that I worked with, on the east side of town. This was their story, and this is kind of what they were feeling. I don't know if any of this relates to you or if this resonates with you, but this is how they were feeling. And it's really fun now when I drive by their home, or when we talk now, there's so much loving this property that they are in, and they can look back and say like, boy, it feels really good to get out of that situation. Feels so good to be in this new house. Like, be willing to not just like talk lightly about it, but go into a little bit of depth, a little bit of juicy details of what that process meant for these people. And I think you'll get people bought into you emotionally, and then they'll start to logically make the decision or justify the decision with logic. So I love that. Being a storyteller is a craft that I think, because the way the industry's been structured, some haven't had to be very good at selling, right? They haven't had to be very good at it, because it was kind of done for them, especially on the buyer side. And now we're having to show the fact that we are valuable. We have been valuable, but now we get to prove it. And I love that strategy. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. If you are not willing to sell yourself and your services and not willing to advocate for yourself, should you even be hired? I mean, that's our job to do for our clients. So if you can't do that for yourself, can you really serve that client? I just wanted to show, I mean, this is an example of something that we put together. Like you said, look for those stories. Every one of those stories turns into a program. Now, when that senior comes to us and says, we want to downsize, or we're moving into assisted living, we have repeated stories. And guess what? We have our senior services program, and we have these to hand out. These are really easy to create. And part of my listing presentation, we have an effortless home prep program that includes staging and cleaning. I mean, many realtors will show up and say, I'll bring a stager into your home, I'll bring a cleaner into your home, but make it a program. It's a system that I have in place that has worked for others and is guaranteed to work for you.
Yeah, what people are saying now is that I don't want to pay a fee for value I can't see. Right? And what I hear you saying is, let them see it, print it out for them, let them touch it, right? Like this is proof. This is an artifact. This is a printed proof. The fact that we've done this before. We've led people from this place that they don't want to be in to this place where they want to be in. And we do that all the time. In fact, we have a program. We have a program for people just like you. No need to be concerned. We help people through this all the time. You're in great hands. We're so excited that you're entrusting us to get through this process, because we love it. We love serving people like you. I think when people feel that you can help them and that you want to help them, there's just this loyalty. They're just, please take me with you. Help us through this.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that, I mean, in the interest of business planning and quarterly reviews, if you are documenting this, it makes it really easy to go back on it. And like you had mentioned, Justin, with thinking of those life events that you love serving, it may even be that you notice that you are attracting a lot of a certain type of client. So when you're tracking where your business comes from and what life event led them to making their move, you can identify more of that. And we have noticed that death and divorce have been a big driver in our business this year. It doesn't mean that we love working with people that are experiencing these things, but I also have a gift of helping them navigate a really difficult time. So, you can be looking at that like, where is my business coming from and how do I create more of that? So now I'm thinking, how do I get in conversation with more people in this situation? It could just be as simple as telling my story and someone else is going to hear it and say, I'm in that same situation and you're helping them. So I trust that you can help me too.
So good. So good. I love it. I want to thank everybody who's attended. We are out of time, and the time has really flown by. So we're appreciative for those that have given us their full attention. Again, whether you've been here live, thanks to those who have been, and for those that have been on the live stream, thank you for that as well. And for those that are watching the recording, we hope that there's been great value here. If there is, and you've come to a point where it's like, I like what I have heard. These are my kind of people, and you're currently at in a brokerage situation where you're like, I don't get this kind of support. We should have a conversation. What we're building here at Think Bigger Real Estate Group is designed to give you very tactical stuff on growing your real estate business, but also very tactical stuff on how to improve your life. Again, successful businesses and significant lives is what we're all about. And it's been really fun to collaborate today with you, Stephanie, on this important topic of having that quarterly huddle to say what needs to improve, what I need to tweak. Let's get back out on the court and win a championship. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.